o te whānau, te tāhuhu o te whare, i heke mai te manakitanga, e awhina te tautoko, o te akoranga, e whakairi ngā kōrero, mai ngā pau, tuku tuku ko whaiwhai e, ora ia, te takapau wharanui. I ngā waiwai o taku tipuna, e putanga ariki, kia rongo ki te ata. Ati hei, mauri ora. I ngā wāka tua ka tika me whakaaro atu ki te rungarau aku i o matua. Kia tau i ho mai wana manaki tanga kei rungi a tātou te tangata i ngā wāka tua. Tēnei mātou e tūwhere te nātou kei roto i te aroha ki a ia. Mo ngā mea ka tui ho mai ia ki a tātou tira tangata kei rungi tau tūroa nei. Mai te aua tia tai noa ki tēnei wā tonu ko ki te mātou te maho ngā hua pai mo tātou te tangata. Ko reira koro e ki te iwa tapua tātou. Ka tāhuri o ku whakaaru i tēnei wā ki tērā kaupapa nui kei waini a tātou ki i Māori ko te kini i tangate. Tu heitea te tipua, tu heitea te taniwha, tu heitea te kingi e tū mai nei rungi te āpua taku. Ki ona mātua, ki ona tipuna. O tērā kaupapa he koe ngō nui mo ngai tātou ki mau. E kai kawe o ngā tino take kai waini a tātou. Nō reira tēnei ka mihi atu ki ka kaupapa te kinutanga. Tēnei ka mihi atu ki a kingi tu heitea. Tēnei ka mihi atu ki tōna ke whānau. Tēnei ka mihi ki te kāhui ariki, ride hau, pai marine. Ki ngā mate. Ngā mate o koutou, mātou, o tātou katoa, ka kōrera oi ware kia rātou. I roto i ngā kōrero kia rātou, haere atura. Ko rātou i taka hi mai te matu o te whenua. Ko rātou i māhue tia mai ngā taunga hei oranga mō tātou te tangata me ngā uri whakatikuranga. Nō reira ki a rātou e ngā tupono tātou haere, moe mai i te moe ngaro. Pare taro hei mā tātaunga. Ka tika i tēnei wā me whakaru atu ki ngā hūpua mate o te wā neki. Ngā mate o te rā, o te wiki, o te marama, o te taute, te tangi, hoti te manoa. E whakapono ana tātou te tangata, kua karangatia tō tātou kaihana. Kua karangatia tō tātou mātua tipana ki a kōtau. Pai atu ki a rātou haere hoki ki Hawaii ki nui, Hawaii ki roa, Hawaii ki pā mā te hono ngā wairua. Kia whetūrangi tia e kōtau. Haere atura. Me pēhea ka hango ngā kupu o ngā kōrero mō ngā whānau e noho pani ai me ki ngā kirimate. Mate ātua koutou anō e mana. O te whakapono ki te ātua kei reira he runga mo te mamai o te wairua. Mā o whānau, mā o hoai a taki a koutou kei reira anō te runga. Kia tīpako hau ngā kōrero rātou maki a kaha, kia maia, kia manua nui, haere tonu, haere kaha tonu. O reira kei te tangi hotu te manua ki ngā mate kei waini a tātou. Kei ngā hau e whao te motu. Kei rotu i tō tātou rohe nui, kei rotu i ngā rohe taki wā o tātou. E tangi ana koutou, tangi ana mātou, tangi ana tātou katoa. Ka tika me whakaro tonu ki ngā mate. Ngā mate i tākoto hia mai te tākoto ranga o ngā mātua tipona ki ngā rama marae maho tātou. Ka tātou. Tēnei wā, o ki wairua mai te whakaaro te maharatanga tērā ngā ranga tira Richard i tēnei wā. Ka kōrera wei ware tia. Ka hākua, kua hina atu ki te pō, kua karanga hene nui te pō ki a ia. Ka mahue tia mai ngā taonga. E toinga no tātou katoa. Nō reira i karanga tira, haere atura. Ko moki tātou. Moki tātou ki a koe. E tangata ngāwari, e tangata aroha mo te kau. Kaupapa te kaungira mo te tangata mo te kaihao. Nō reira he ngaro noa, he ngaro nui kei waini a tātou. E taranga tira, atura. E ka whakaaro tūru ki tōna ke whānau i tēnei wā. Nō reira, tahapuruku. Mate atu kōturu ki a tātou mana. Nō reira, e ngā mate o tātou katoa. ai atu nā. Apiti hono tātai hono, rātou tonga wairua ki a rātou. Apiti hono tātai hono tātou, te huna ora, ki te huna ora, a tihei mauriwa. Papaki tuana ngātai ki maua, i whakaneke neki hea, whakanuku hea. Ki wārere tia e hotu a wahine rua ki te wai, tai wiwi, tai wā, te whai iau te ao marama, tihei mauri ora. Anō nei te mihi atu. Mātou kia koutou, tātou kia tātou. Koutou rā, ko tatu mai, ko uru mai tēnei rā. Hara mai, whakatau mai, piki mai, kahe mai rā. E nei, te mihi atu kia koutou, kia rua whānui, kia rua waka, kia rua iwi, tēnei ka mihi, hara mai ki tō tātou whare e tua kenei. Tēnei ka mihi kia koutou, e te mana whenua kia rua. Nā tō tainga a tinana mai, nā tō tainga a kānui, e whakanui ki ta mana e tū mai, e kaupapa e tū mai nei i tēnei rā, nō reira, koutou ngā kānohi kitea, o te aroa waka, te aroa whānui, tēnei kami, hoki mai ki tō tātou whare. Ka kore ware tātou ki ngā hononga o tātou kia tātou anō. Nō reira, anei ngā waka o taki tinu, o ngā tātua, e mihi atu ki tō tātou waka o te aroa. Hara mai rā. E nei mātou ngā iwi o tauranga moana, tauranga tangata e mihi atu nei. Mai tarangi ngātirangi nui ngāti tūkena, hei te mihi atu kia koutou. Kia mihi anō ki ngā mana. Ngā mana i o iwi, ngā mana i o hapu, ngā mana i o whānau, e kawe mai nei runga o koutou puka hiwi tēnei rā. E rā nui, e rā whakahira pēni. Nō reira, kei te mihi atu kia koutou, rauranga tira mai hui ka pai ka pui tēnei. Tēnei ka mihi kia koutou, e kawe mai, ko kai ki te tautoko te taupako o tēnei rā. Tēnei ka mihi, hara mai kia koutou. Ka mihi atu au kia koutou e ngā ranga tira, ko tai mai, kora aki te rohe, e nui mai ngā kuri a whāriki o tamarātou i tēnei rā. Kei te mihi. Kia koutou ngā kānui kitea o ngā rohe taki wā te rohe nui, tēnei kami, hara mai. E kitea hau ngā kānuhi o ngā puari hāpuri, kora aki i te he te moana nei o tō tātou rohe taki wā nei. Nō reira, kei te mihi kia koutou. I atu kia koe tēnei wā Ross, pai ki te kia koe, i te tia mana. Tērā o ngā puari matua, puari hāpuri, tērā taha o tātou, kei te mihi atu. Koutou tātou. Nō reira, ka huria ki a koe e te tau. E te rangatira, tēnei kami, hara mai rā. E nei ka au mihi ki a koe. O koe rā ko eke ki rungi te tūranga, o tēnei kaunihira. O tātou te rangata. Nō reira, kei te mihi atu ki a koe e roa. Hara mai. O tiki ake koe, mai te puari o te hapuri, ka tū koe, i rote te tūranga, e kaunihira. Nō reira, tēnei te aumihi ki a koe, tēnā koe, tēnā rā koe, kia ora. E wahine ngā wai, e wahine whai mana koe. Nō reira, tēnei te mihi ki a koe. Kua toa mo tō hāpuri, o make tū i tēnei rā. E rohe awhakau, tēnei ka mihi ki a koe. Hoi anō i tēnei wā lora hare mai, o pūkena maha. Ka tū kei waina i nei, kei waina i tō whānau e tā perena mau i tēnei rā. Nō reira, kia taha, kia maia, kia mana nui. Ko te kaupapa nui e te kauni hera nei, kia tiaki ko te taiao, kia tiaki ko te tangata. Hama noi ho te kōrero, he oranga taiao, he oranga tangata. Nō reira, mihi atu ki a koe i tēnei rā. Hawe taia te tātari, mō te uringa mai koe i roto i tēnei, te tū wera, ka awhi kia manaki ki te tautoko, te taupapa, anō te oranga mo te tangata. Nō rei, mihi atu ki a koe. Mihi atu ki a koe me tō whānau, whānui, so tai mai ki te tautoko i a koe i tēnei rā. Hoi anō, ko taku tū i tēnei rā, he māngai a hau, o te kaunihera, he māngai a hau mō ngā iwi. Nā tēnā koe, te tia mana o tō tātou rōpū Māori, kei ro te kāhui mana whenua tauranga moana, nō reira, e kawe mai a hau, nā whakaro pai, ngā whakaro rangatira ki a koe o ngā iwi o ngā hapu kātua, o tēnei o tātou rohe taki wa kauranga moana, kauranga tangata ki a koe. Nō reira e hene, tēnei kami, tēnei kami, a tēnei kami ki a koe. E hara tēnei he tūwhakaroa, e tūwhakahohai a tātou, engari he honore nui tēnei ka tū, ka tuku ngā mihi atu mo tēnei rā nui, mo tēnei rā whakahira. Ai, ki tana te kōrero he mahanga wero kai mua tātou, te anga whakamua. Engari, wahi e peira ki a koe, tērā, he paina mō tātou te iwi. Nō reira, tēnei ka mihi atu ki a koe, tēnei wā me te kaupapa te kainihira nei. Tēnei tātou anō, mai ngā puri a whare, mai ngā tūrāki o tamarātou. Nō reira, mata atua tātou manaki tiaki ngā wāta ko te a tātou, anō te whakapuno ki te runga rawa, i ngā wāta ko ka arahi kia ki a tātou. Tono atu, tono mai. Nō reira, kei te mihi ki a tātou, i rungi taruha, i rungi te tika, anō ki a koe taku matua, taku rangatira, hari ko te nātou ki te tūtaki, ki te kite a koe anō, tō tātou whānau whānui o tō tātou rohe. Nō reira, tēnā koe, tēnā kōtou, tēnā tātou.
E hika tua e ki runga rāwhi tiki taua e kamatu. Ea ki te uru, ea ki te tonga, iki nuku, iki rangi, arara.
Tangata kei te wāhingaro i o te ringrawa tōna ka ai. Ka noho ia i raru i te tau marumaru tama o te kaharo. Ka ki ane ahua i hoa koe a tōku piringa, tōku pā, tōku atua, tōku whakangungungur, whakau, te haono, tōku whakaoranga, ka puta ka ora ti he maungi ora. Ka tuatahi kei te tuaki ki te tautoko i ngā mihi ki tō tata kaihau. Nana nei, i arataki na mai, a tātou, te whanau, mai ti hua te waka ke tai mai, i wani mia koutou i te haoro o tēnei atu. Nō reira, he honere krori ki te atua he maungarongo ki te whenua, me te whakaaro pai ki nā tangata katoa kroria ki tāna ingoata. Ka mihi ati ki ai ana te mea, koe ara te arepā te omeka, koe ara te tuatahi te otinga, koe ara te tīmatanga te whakamuti mō ngā mea katoa, tēnei kami. Ka huri ati ki te tautoko i ngā mihi ki tō tātou ki atu hei tia, kia piki tuni te kaha te ora te pāramatanga i runga i aia, i roto i ana hiko, i roto i ana haere, i roto i tēnei rana. Me ngā manaakitanga te atua i runga i tōna hoata wahine, te ata whai, arawa tamariki moka puna, o tira, te whare opo o te tau, te whero, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. O tira, ka huri atu ki te mihi atu ki ngā mate huhua, E hinga mai nei, e hinga mai nā, i runga i tō tātou marae maha o te motu. Ko me hingi a rātou, ko tangihi a rātou, ko porapora ke tia rātou katoa. Me tērā o tātou rangatira e kororuhi ake nei, ko Richard tērā. Ka mihi atu ki tērā toka. Ki tērā toka. I tōna nei noho i wanginui a koutou, anei ka rā ko riro atu, ka mihi atu ki tōna whānau. O tira me tērā o tātou whāia, a June Mānia, a tērā i hinga mai, i rato i tamaki makaurau, ka whakahoki atu, ai e ia, i tōna maunga tapu o tihirau, i runga i tōna marae, o kaua i tana takuhia. Ka mihi atu ki a rātou ngamata. Kei nui a koutou, kei nui a mata. Pe ki rā te kōrero, ko e ai rātou ngamata ki a rātou, ta whotopāi, e moi, o ki oki. Ka huri atu, i te mihi atu ki a koe, i kora matua, James, i nā koe. Ka koko te ngāku ki tikiti a koe, o ki oki mahara i tai mai ai e koe ki Makatu, i te wā o tō mātou whakamaumaharatanga mō ngā hoia i whakangaro. Te whaka, o koe i tai mai, te uetahi o kouni hera i tai mai, o rea kei te mihi atu ki a koe. Ki a koe John, o tira koutou katoa, ngā kouni hera, ngā whaai, ngā tuahini, a mihi. Pai anō tēnei rā ko tai mai, ta mātou kōtiro. Ta mātou paha kōroro mō mātou. Aha koa, e wahine poto poto, engari, e nui ngā kōroro kai roto i hata patoa. Koe nei ko tai mai te tautoka i aia. Ai, e tikana tā kōrero, kai te rangatira, o eke atu ai e ia. O eke atu ai e ia. Koe nei pātau i hara mai, i te tautoka i aia, i te whai mai i aia, i te kawe mai tana whānau. Anei rā mātou ko tai mai. Tāku mihi ki a koutou, kia kaha te tiaki tā mātou kōtiro. Ki te kore, ka hara mai ki te tiki ki aia. Ki te whakahoki aki ki aia, ki te kai. Nō reira, ka nui te mihi ati ki a koutou e mihi mai. Anei rā te tinga mātou rangatira. Ko Chris, te wā, Chris te wā. Koe rā te tai. Koe ki atu ki te rātou mai. Nō o makaro. I tūtahi mātou i waho neira, kororo mātou, koe rā te tai. Nō reira mihi mai kia, i aia, koe rā te tai. Nō reira anei rā tā mātou whānau, ta tai mai. I runga te hari, i runga te koa, i te tautoko rāua, i te tautoko rāua, ta tai mai. Ta tai mai tana whāpā o na kraua, o na tuahino o na whaia, ta tōko tatu mai, ko tai mai te. Tai mihi mai. Te mihi ati ki a koutou katoa, ngā karamara hapu, ara, o ngai te rangi ngā tira niru ngā tipuhinga. Anei te tahi o ngā tipuhinga kai wanuri a mātou, ngā tipuhinga ara ki Makatu, kai wanuri a mātou. Korira mihi mai na, anei rā ko tai mai ki ihu o te waka. Tanui te mihi ati ki a koutou e gira ngā waka pererua, e kororuhi ake nei e koe, te waka mātātua, te waka tāwhitiu, anei kai mihi ati ki a koutou katoa. Tō reira kāre e tōroi he te kōrero ki aro. Ngari mihi mai. Mihi mai anei rā ko tai mai mātou. Ko tai mai mātou i runga te hari i runga te koe. Tō reira kāre e tōroi he te kōrero kei te rangatira. Ngari kei te mihi ati ki a koe, ki a koutou hoki. Tō reira tēnā koutou, a tēnā tātou katoa.
Tuarua po te ao, tua toru e tangata tīna kōrero iahu mai a te arawa mai. Wai ki nui mai, hawai ki roa, hawai ki pamama, i te mūtunga ka hoki anō ki te hononga weiru. Ia kupe ngā waka e ono, e te ngā nui e whitu e. Mai make tuki tō mariro maunga, te arawa te waka make tu te iho. Rotoru a te takere taupo o te kai o te waka e. Au e nuku ko pako piki o tuhaurangi Ngāti tahu, Ngāti whaoa, ko tahi tātahu e.
Ngāti moko, e te mihi ati ki a koe taku tuahini, ka kōpua te ngākau ki te, ia koe e noho whakamene mai nā nei puri, Ore rā pichi hono tatai honi, ara te te hukomate kua tiu hono hono rata ngā mati ki a rata, takoto mai e moi oki. A pichi hono tatai hono, ko tātou te huko ki a tātou, kuri noa tā tātou whare. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou mo te koutou mihi mai, ka tau mai o mātou te rea. Ora tātou, tēnā.
atua. Tēnā ko moki moki nei i tōna rei. Me tōna āhua nā ngai kaua mani i tōna whirikiri na kōrero. Teo i anō, e hana mātai te warawara ki a rātou, e kari ngāno ki te rātou. E hana mātai te whāo te rangatira. Tēnei a te mea ki te atu. E hua nā kōtau au e mauana, au te tō kōri te aho, tō ki pōtai, ma tōku iwi, ma tōku tāpua. Tēnei, i runga i tēra, tēnei a mai tōna rāwa o te manu o tēnei o ngā tēnei, tēnei atu te atu. O tēra atu tūka, mai te iwakata i te ata, mai no atu ki te iwakara ki te pō, e pōtai no te iwira. E pōtai e whāna ki tō tāpai mahi, tāpai mahi te te tāpai. E runga i tēnei, karikoa tēnei te te atu, i ate, i te te rau ngā whainata. Me te wawata mōhuki, hawea mai, o āhuatanga, i runga i tērā tēte, kia māma noiko, te mahi, mai mātou, te kaunitira, i ngā taupapa Māori, te nui ki ate. I runga i ngā taumaka o te wā, mai te mahi o te whare, whare whāwanatanga, e tono nei ngā tātou o ngā Māori, e hawata tēnei o ngā whāmahi, taupapa Māori, o te taurutira, o eki ki tērā tēra. Tāna ki te āti ni rea. Tōri anō. Tōri anō, au, mō tō hāpuri, e hara mā te Māori anake. Nō reira aha kua te iti o tō noho, tino nei tērā tirona, i mua me te pōti na pōti a te rātau. Tērā pēr te timakana tēnei. A tau o wā, kai te anō koe ki tau tirana, kai te tēnā. Mō reira taure e tūmehua ngā kōrero o tēnei, i te hitikanga, ka tuku mehi aruha te a tēnei i te tēnei. O te rangatira, hana mai, te wainga i a tātou, te roko i tēnei, hare nuku a tātou, a reira te rā te whanau. Te waia te whaia tēnei, te waia tātei, tau te manaki tano te runga rawa ki rungi a tātou, a mō reira whanga tūmero te kōrero o tēnei, nā tātou atu, a tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā mai tātou katoa.
So thank you, everyone. We'll move to the more formal part of the meeting now. So I request that the order of business be changed to deal with the business that is of significance to members of the public in attendance. So can I please have a mover and seconder to move the order? Councillor Joyce, Councillor Granger, all in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. So it's items 11.2 and 11.1 and 2 will be dealt with as the next items. So I would now like to invite Chris Dever to the lectern to make and attest his declaration.
I, Christopher Allen Dever, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interests of the Makaroa community the powers, authorities and duties vested or imposed upon me as a member of the Makaroa Community Board, by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002 and the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987 or any other act. Use a real pen. That's right. You can use a real pen too if you like.
That's all right. Okay, congratulations. Well, welcome to the So I need to move and second two recommendations that the declaration of Chris Dever for appointment to the Makaroa Community Board be received, and the oral and written declaration by Chris Dever is witnessed and signed by myself, James Denyer. So I'll call for a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Thwaites, Councillor Murray Benge, all in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. I would now like to invite Laura Ray to the lectern to make and to test her declaration.
I, Laura Ray, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interests of the Western Bay of Plenty District the powers, authorities and duties vested in me or imposed upon me as a member of the Western Bay of Plenty District Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002 and the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987 and any other act.
Congratulations. Good to have you on board. Okay, Laura, I think you can take your seat at the big table. Okay. So similar recommendations for Laura to receive the report and to the oral and written declaration by Laura Ray is witnessed and signed by Mayor James Denyer. So mover and seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Scrimger, Councillor Wickers, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. So thank you. That will now adjourn the meeting. I would like to invite those in attendance to have a celebratory morning tea with our new elected members. So I think we'll adjourn until 10:40 and welcome to have tea with us. Thank you. strength after the declaration from Laura, Councillor Ray. There are no consideration of late items, so can I call for any conflicts of interest in relation to today's agenda, please? There are none, okay. So there are no public excluded items, so we'll move straight into public forum. We have a number of speakers today, so we're going to start off with Omokoroa Point School, Sandra Portuguese, and talking about the request for the zebra crossing. So Sandra, would you like to come up to the front? And before you speak, you just press the right-hand button, and when it's red, you're on.
Kia ora. I'm Carly Stenbeck and I'm the Feet First coordinator of Omokoroa Point School, and I have brought Maya Go-Kart with me today.
We're here to persuade you to get a pedestrian crossing on Hamarana Road and Tralee Street.
We have lately been getting more and more students coming into our school, and it gets harder to keep our students safe on the road.
These pie graphs show just one morning on this road, and as you can tell, it's very busy with the cars and buses, plus the community. Here's the data from the afternoon.
In my opinion, getting a pedestrian crossing keeps not just our school kids safe around the road, but also our community safe from being hit by a car or bike. I'd like to ask to get a pedestrian crossing because the kids go down Hamarana Road hill fast, 1, without looking, and 2, without thinking. They then cross randomly very close to the busy roundabout very dangerously. There have already been several near misses on that road with all the cars using that corner.
I believe that a zebra crossing would be so beneficial and it would help prevent so many future accidents that could happen. When I used to bike home from school, I found that it was really difficult crossing the road, and if you didn't race across, you had to wait a long time to safely get across. A lot of cars also just race through, and they are very hard for bikers, walkers, and scooterers to see, which creates great danger for many students at our school. We have some photos to show you.
This is what the crossing looks like now. In this photo, we have a new shopping mall, which is another hazard to our students and community when they cross the road, with all the cars going in and out.
We have no pedestrian crossings on Omokoroa main roads, but we have 4 inside our new shopping mall.
Anya says kids biking and scootering across the road, and the cars will be turning, and there's kids speeding down the road and nearly getting hit. Taylor says she finds it really dangerous having kids going down the hills really fast, and she has seen heaps of kids nearly hit, and it would be nice to have a zebra crossing.
Our principal, Mrs. Portuguese, said, "We have had a significant population growth in Omokoroa over recent years, meaning more children and traffic on our roads at peak times. We have also noticed that there is more traffic at this intersection since the village opened up this year. We've been actively encouraging students to travel to school by means other than cars and teaching students road safety skills. Our monitoring is showing this intersection is a black spot for student safety, and student improvements can be made in this area. I applaud our Travel Safe team for showing the initiative to do something about this." Deputy Principal Mrs. Carter said, "A pedestrian crossing is important to ensure the safety of our students when crossing the increasingly busy roads around our school. Currently, there is no safe option close to the school, and as our school roll grows, so do our concerns for our students. As a school, we cone off parking options directly outside the school to try and minimise the potential hazards at school drop-off and pick-up time, but even with this initiative, we see many close calls."
Here we have a rough tally of how many kids go down the hill, and as you can tell, it's a lot.
Every year, we have an increasing number of students joining our school. Some data that we have collected shows that on the 15th of December 2022, we had 349 students at our school, and in 2023, we had 370. With all the new houses and shops being built and the retirement villages, we're expecting this number to increase greatly every year.
In 2023, the population of Omokara was 5,390, and by 2038, that number is expected to double in size, which increases the cars and people using that road more and more. Thank you for your time, and please help us keep our community safe on the road.
Thank you, Carly. Thank you, Maya, and thank you, Sandra. I'll now open it up for questions, and I see that Councillor Thwaites has a question, so I'll start with you.
Morning, Carly and Maya. Thank you for coming in today. Great. During your research, have you looked at some of those raised pedestrians that they've built up with asphalt that would actually slow the cars down? Because I know coming down at Hamarana is quite a slope, and I just wondered if you'd considered raising an option of the road being raised up to just to slow the cars down a little bit, as well as a pedestrian crossing. Have you got any thoughts on that?
The cars does block when the car. So me and Mrs. Duggan, we went to the crossing itself, and we saw how slow the cars go down, and then when they turn the speed around the corner, it's very fast and dangerous for the kids going across, and then it takes up a lot of time for kids trying to cross, especially, and also older people and people using that road. It takes up a lot of time and effort for that to be done.
Councillor Wickers.
Well done. I really appreciate the fact you've come in here today to present to us. Is this part of a project that, as part of learning, that where you've done like an inquiry and used this as used a real live scenario to actually develop learning?
Yeah. Well, we do teach the students, we do bike safety at school, which teaches the students how to use the road safely. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just noting that within that you've done a lot of research. You went away and found out information. You've then gone and looked at your road. You've taken photos. You've put some maths in there. You've put a graph. That's a really good example of using real life to learn, because when you leave school, that's where the real world is. You're looking forward to your new high school out that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
They across the road they are.
Yeah, cool. And good work, Principal. Well done.
Thank you. Councillor Murray Benj.
Thank you very much for your submission this morning. Do you know exactly where you want the pedestrian crossing?
Yes, we would like it. Where we have the crossing, a small crossing where we have it now, just to the side, where we'd like it just to the side on it.
So have you had a chance to speak to staff yet?
No.
Well, as you'll know, Mr. Chairman, we can't give approval today, but it goes to staff and your submission, and I'm quite sure it will be implemented, and we'll come back.
No, Councillor Murray Benj, I'm not going to start promising implementation at this point.
But it does, they report.
Councillor Granger.
Thank you, Carly and Mia, for coming in and giving us that information. And, you know, I live in Omokara and I know that corner well and know how busy it is now with the new shopping centre. So thank you for bringing that to the council's attention, and I'm sure it will be looked at very seriously. Thank you. Well done.
Councillor Joyce.
Just echo that. I mean, I used to live in Vivian Drive and actually moved to Katikati because I had to turn right at the highway, and it still scares the bejesus out of me. It's a much busier area now, so I was going to ask, what is the process from now? Can we just explain that so the submitters can actually know what will happen from here?
Yeah, I'd say before I go to Cedric, the roading staff, I understand, are aware of the situation, but I'll hand over to Cedric to explain exactly where that is.
Thank you, through Mr. Chair. Fantastic presentation and well done with your research. From my perspective, you've done a lot of really good work there. I think there's a lot of merit in looking at that crossing, and I think I would take it one step further. You've done the research, so I would encourage you to work with staff, and maybe we have our own workshop with our traffic safety engineer, and you help design the pedestrian island as well. So that would be my recommendation.
That's really encouraging, Cedric, so thank you for that, given the opportunity. So I think we better move on. We've got a busy morning, but thank you again, Mrs. Portguys and Maya and Carly. Excellent presentation, and thank you for your time. Thank you. Okay, carrying on with the voting theme. We have Lorna Cooper for number 1 road in Te Puke. Please sit as is comfortable for you, and push the button on the mic to get it going.
Okay. Good morning. Thank you for giving me this time to talk to you.
If you'd like to sit, you can. Or if you stand, that's fine too. But
maybe my voice might carry better. I'll try. Okay. Now, I'm here. I've got some notes here. I'm about number 1 road, a country road, a roller coaster ride for drivers, and a shake-up for residents. It's an absolute nightmare and a disaster waiting to happen. At present, every time a truck goes up or down our road, our houses are shaken maybe 20 to 30 times a day. But during kiwi fruit season, this can be between 100 to 150, sometimes 200. With jolting, when the truck speed and hits parts of the repairs. James Trevelyan is prepared to supply a truck or trucks to travel over the road to show the amount of deflection and weaving is going on. I'm happy for a group of councillors to meet at my property at any time, suitable to the councillors and to James, so they can see what's actually happening to number 1 road. For residents to monitor the trucks that are speeding is not practicable. I've tried to collate the information from other residents. But the result is trucks are shaking the houses all the time, even when they're not speeding. Roading Department's letter 6th of August states rehab is on track to start mid-October for a strip of road from 63 to 200, number 1 road. Also, they stated that resource consent application was being lodged later that week. Has that been lodged? Has it been done? And does it cover rehab for the road from number 63 down to the main road? Has a contractor been lined up? It is now middle of August. Our items, my previous items, are they likely to happen by mid-October? 3.2 million is what's been stated to cover the rehab. Is this for the whole road? If not, what rates increase are we likely to withstand to cover this for the rest of the road? Can we apply for government funding? Can the council apply for government funding? Or would you like me to write to some of the ministers? What has council in mind to reduce the discomfort for residents while the road is being rehabilitated? Also, what about the next kiwi fruit season? Please note, there are very, very angry residents on number 1 road, and suggestions have already been made to block off the road and to stop trucks, and a protest at local council offices, and so on. Thank you for listening to me. I'm becoming the number 1 road squeaky wheel, only because I'm concerned for all who live on the road, and of course myself. Thank you for listening to me. I hope I didn't take more than 5 minutes.
Just about perfect. So thank you, Lorna. I think appreciate your time. I think there's works in progress. I just wonder if it's best to hand over to Cedric to answer some of those questions. You did ask quite a number of questions, and I hope that Cedric can provide some clarity on that, and then I'll open it up for any further questions from councillors.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. So I'll comment on the rehabilitation first. So the design for that work is 99% complete. So we struggled a little bit with one of the landowners there in terms of the stormwater discharge. With the urbanisation of that road, we've increased the runoff of stormwater. So it was quite challenging to get that landowner approval. So we've received that and the consent's been lodged. We've got a supplier in the works in terms of undertaking that work, and we're anticipating the work to start in October. From an actual RP perspective, we're delivering from RP 580 to 960 this coming season, kicking off in October, and then the following season will be the remaining portion.
The remaining portion of
that section.
That section.
Yep, and then the top end, obviously we have referenced the vibration. So we have been working with the police. We've spoken to Trevelyan's. We've put some traffic mitigations up in place. We have got a rehab to look at the wearing course or the surface in terms of the concerns you've raised. But I guess, and I'm saying this with some sensitivity, is that the nature of the properties that are low-lying, that are below the road level, the nature of the subgrade in the soil, means that those houses have always had vibration issues. And I think I recall from the last community board, although there is a perception that the vibration is, and those perceptions are pretty real due to the wearing course, the vibration issues are going to remain due to the location of the houses being below the road level and the pavement.
There are actually houses on the top of the road, not where, I know I am below the road, but there are also houses on the other side of the road who are not below the road, and two houses back, and their houses are shaking.
Yes, and those houses have also shaken for 25 years as well.
Yeah.
Right, are there any questions for Lorna? Councillor Wickers.
So great to see you here, Lorna. It's been
Thank you, Andy.
It's been a hard time for you with a number of things in your world, and so just want to acknowledge that, and also want to acknowledge that you are someone who speaks, but you also act, and appreciate the work that you have been doing to try and mitigate the problem while we work on getting a plan to fix the particular section you're talking about. So just want to really acknowledge you and the work that you've done on behalf of those lower number 1 road residents who are my ex-neighbours, so would know you well. Just wanted to say that there is going to be a public forum mid to late September. I'll give you the date and give you a personal invite, where number 1 road will be one of the topics that is addressed, and a fuller explanation and a better opportunity to ask questions and get answers that can't really happen in this forum. So I'll personally make sure that you are invited, and encourage you to reach out to the network that you've created to get them along as well. And this is the hard part of the news, is that what is talked about kicking off in October is around the S-Pen and above. The section outside your place is scheduled for the next year because of it just can't do so much work in 1 year. So that's... But
we realise that, Andy. It's just that some things need to be put in place to slow that traffic down for the lower half of the road. Otherwise...
So I would suggest that in that forum we'll discuss that and see what can be done to mitigate the problems while we wait for the road to be fixed. So appreciate you coming in.
All right, and would that forum be during the evening or during the day? Because most of the people are working.
It's an evening meeting. It'll probably be a 6:30, 7 o'clock at the Orchard Church. The date is set. I just can't remember. I think it's the 21st offhand. But
21st of September.
Yep.
I think the best way for Councillor Wickers to confirm that, rather than take it as gospel right now. But
does anyone want a copy of my notes?
If you hand it to governance, they will make sure everyone gets a copy.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I think we better move on now. Thank you, Lorna, for your time and telling us about the problem. So we'll move on to the speakers about State Highway 2 median barriers now. Before we start, I do want to acknowledge that the video that was sent round by Marcel yesterday, at 17 minutes long, it was never really right to play in the public forum, but all councillors received it. I certainly watched it, and I assume most of my colleagues have as well. So thank you for that. I'll just acknowledge that. But first up, we have Rex Diath, and if you'd like to come to the front, sir.
Yes, please. Just to continually play it. Yeah. Yeah, hello, my name's Rex Diath. I live up Pine Ridge Lane.
Transporter from BRNSL Port Limited. I'm a transport operator based in Mount.
I think we better lose the sound on that. It's going to get very confusing.
Mills Reef, Morgan State.
So just to clarify, Rex, is that the video that was sent round? Looks like it. Is that the video that was sent round yesterday?
The video I've sent is on a tsunami that happened in Japan 2011.
Okay, right.
It was emailed. Okay. Now, I also submitted a couple of maps that show the tsunami risk to that particular stretch of road. I'm just going to read out what I've written. I want to raise serious concerns regarding the centre barriers and the tsunami zones, specifically addressing the implications of the public safety along the key routes such as Wright Road and the Matahui roundabout. As you're undoubtedly aware, Wright Road lies in a designated tsunami zone and serves as a crucial safety route for local residents and visitors alike. Additionally, it runs along vital facilities, including the pack house and the winery, which heightens the risk during any emergency situation. The isolation of the centre wire barriers as such vital routes can significantly impede safe egress in case of an unexpected natural disaster, notably in the wake of the recent volcanic activity at White Island and the concerns of the recent perception of complacency that has risen due to the events that's happened at the East Cape and the rivermouth blockage recently at the Tuki rivermouth. The continued presence of these barriers represents a risk to public safety as they obstruct the ability to make necessary right-hand turns, whereby bottlenecking potential evacuations. It is therefore imperative that these risks be acknowledged and addressed without delay. I urge the NZTA to ban the usage of centre wire barriers in designated tsunami zones and to promptly take measures to remove any that may have already been installed, ensuring the capacity for safe and unobstructed exits during emergencies. For the NZTA to recognise that Wright Road is a designated safety zone. We acknowledge the crucial role that the transport safety measures play in our communities. However, prioritising safety in the face of natural disaster necessitates that we adapt an approach and safeguard evacuees first and foremost. I then wanted to talk about the video that I haven't got. But on this video, it actually shows an area that was 5 miles inland from the coast in Japan. The video shows cars coming down to the oncoming tsunami, U-turning and escaping backwards. It also in the same video, it shows a vehicle coming to an intersection turn and turning right away from the tsunami. If these barriers were in place, these vehicles wouldn't have stood a hope. I'm also concerned that NZTA will say that perhaps with the barriers where they can stop your car and get out and run up the hills. To me, bad luck if you're a elderly, too bad luck if you're a mother with a baby in the back of your car, too bad luck if you've got a disability and you can't run. I myself, I'm a very good runner. Perhaps Usain Bolt can outrun the tsunami, but he can only do that for 100 metres, so he's going to be a bit buggered too. But that is basically what I want to say about this. And also, I find it a bit crazy that Mr. Spears has touted that the road that is now 6 metres wide on both sides necessitates a wire rope down the centre because of head-on accidents, when we now have 7 narrow bridges going from Omokoroa to Katikati that have no barriers in them and only 3 metres wide on each side of the barrier. In fact, one of these bridges, the trucks that pass both ways have quite often noted that their wing mirrors have been blasted off. It seems to me that the NZTA would be better off widening the bridges than putting in barriers. That's basically all I've got to say.
Thank you, Rex. Thank you for your presentation. Are there any questions for Mr. Diath? Councillor Murray-Benj.
Sir, you're right to raise that issue. If the Kermadex goes, there'll be no really time for people to escape either. So that's the number one issue for New Zealand coastline.
Yes.
You're right to raise it. And Sir, Mr. Mayor,
Councillor Murray-Benj, have you got a question?
I'm asking you a question as to can we get that information to go to the board along with the letter that has gone from our Mayor and Mr. Thiel from the Regional Council. Both have actually signed a letter to say how concerned we are, and I think that's really important that the community understands that we're as concerned as you are.
Yes, because in this video I also wanted to explain about how far away that tsunami has actually gone, whereas at Wright Road Bridge you're looking directly at the sea as well.
Okay, Councillor Coxhead.
Thank you, Rex. You were probably at the meeting the other night, and I raised this as well because I was in the earthquake, the Kaikoura earthquake in Wellington, where it was just as strong, and we got trapped in Wellington as well. It was before Transmission Gully, and all roads were closed out and all flights, so we were stuck in Wellington. So it was horrendous, really. But at the time I asked, at the meeting I asked, had anyone had conversations with Civil Defence? And I wondered now, since that meeting, has there been a discussion with them?
I have actually sent that particular letter that I've just read to you to Civil Defence. It didn't actually go directly to them. It goes to somebody that, then Naveed just emailed me back today saying they're going to spread that email out. Yeah. It's happened, yeah. And I think a lot of people have been writing to the likes of Civil Defence and anybody they can think of that will actually listen. I think these wire ropes are not going to do the job that they think they are going to do. I think they're an absolute danger.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. That was going to be my point about whether it's actually been sent to NZTA or Civil Defence. So as long as those people are aware of your concerns and can consider them carefully, yes. That's the main thing.
Very good. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Diath. I'll now move on to Rochelle. Oh, I get this one wrong. Zajko. Perhaps you can correct my pronunciation.
Psycho sounds like psycho, but I'm not. Hi, my name is Rochelle. I'm a mum, resident and business owner in Wright Road. I run the Facebook group Residents Against NZTA Blocking Rural Roads, of which we now have nearly 400 members. What I'm trying on behalf of others is to get through to you today is the gravity of what is happening to the local economy, to people's lives because of these barriers. It's not just a few people moaning about a piece of wire. This is being felt community-wide. For families, one woman admitted to us she had done dangerous U-turns on the bridge now because she couldn't afford the gas, to do the extra 14 kilometres per day. Another parent is doing an extra 154 kilometres of driving for her children. She's in Walker Road East and has to get to Morton Road and back. This is just one family. Multiply this out by hundreds. The school bus route is now of huge concern. Buses doing U-turns repeatedly at the roundabouts now is very scary for parents and children and the bus driver. For properties, for real estate, properties like mine in Wright Road versus a similar property in Lockington, Lockington property now gets to enjoy open access, right turns, gets the safety of knowing that emergency services will get there faster. I'd also like to know why over the next 5 years, the $10,000 that I'd love to save for my son's future, a first car, a school exchange, whatever it is now literally going on roundabout driving. The positives for living in Wright Road, Dawson Road or Ongatiri are decreasing dramatically. A house that's currently up for sale in Wright Road has already had potential buyers question the barriers and its impacts. And lastly, if you don't want aggression or anger directed at you, please understand ordinary law-abiding people have had financial burdens, a huge variety of daily impacts affect their livelihoods, and they are very upset. They're overwhelmed, and it's caused them to say things or do things they never normally would. The road feels very segregated now. So going forward, I'd love your full support to have your communities back. A large section of the community is in distress. We'd love more engagement. Thank you.
No, thank you, Rochelle. I just wondered if there's any questions for Rochelle. Councillor Joyce.
I know it's hard, we're supposed to ask questions, but I hear the pain. It's very real. It's very much dollar. You know, there's real dollars involved here, and so I just want to acknowledge that. One question I've had, and I've asked it a couple of times. I don't, and I'm probably wrong, but I'll ask it again. The 6.5 metres I understood supposed to be on either side of the barrier. Has anyone actually gone out and measured it? Because every time I drive through, I look at it like, oh, that's not 6.5 metres.
Yeah.
And now they put the pegs in by Wright Road, and that's restricting it even further.
Yeah. So from the new yellow pegs to the median barrier is 3.1 metres on one lane, and I understand that on a state highway, it's supposed to be 3.5. So I don't even know if it's legal at this point. So.
Yeah, please pursue that, and I mean, hopefully you've got a builder in the group with a laser measurer that we can.
Yeah.
Councillor Jones, I suggest we perhaps ask our roading team to liaise with NZT about that query. One thing I do not want is people going out on the road and trying to get the tape measure. That's just very dangerous. Yeah, okay.
That's why I said laser, not tape measure.
Okay, but that's not something for ordinary people to be doing on the road, I think.
Yeah.
If the authorities in charge, NZTA, haven't got their act together, that it sometimes does fall to ordinary people.
Yeah. Well, happy to get that clarified. I think that's useful. Thank you. Councillor Murray-Benj.
Mr Mayor, and thank you so much for your submission. We feel your pain in the economy that people are suffering with as well. And so in your letter to the Minister, or to the board,
Councillor Murray-Benj, that's the next item is my report. That's the appropriate time to ask a question. At the moment, we're questioning Rochelle. So do you have a question for her?
So you would hope that the Mayor would take your
No,
issue
Councillor Murray-Benj,
and
don't.
involve them in his report. I shall look forward to it, sir.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Rochelle? Thank you. Appreciate your time on that one. Thank you. Okay, next up we have Paul Dowick, who I believe is on Zoom, and he's from the Leverett and Mills Reef Winery. Okay, I think we might pause on that one and move on to June Sobey, who can speak to us.
I'm going to stand. Yeah.
Okay. Could you make sure the microphone gets close, though, please, so the people online can
Tell
hear?
me if you can't hear. Is that okay?
It's not so much us, it's the people online.
Oh, can I lift it?
Yeah.
Mayor and councillors, I am June Sobey, a ratepayer living on Wright Road, speaking on behalf of those affected by the State Highway 2 median barriers and associated roundabouts. We are experiencing significant distress due to the sudden implementation of these barriers, which have forced us to drive past our road to the next roundabout. This change was enacted with no prior engagement or negotiation, and our emails have gone unanswered. This lack of communication and consideration has caused immense disruption to our daily lives. Approximately 8 or 9 years ago, Aongatete residents had constructive discussions with Becca regarding road changes, which allow right-hand turning bays. This process was appreciated and effective. However, the current approach shows a regression in public engagement and democratic process. Previously, turning right into Wright Road was hazardous due to high traffic speeds in both directions. The introduction of the right turning bay greatly improved safety. The new median barriers are contrary to our safety concerns and will delay emergency services by around 4 minutes, potentially compromising lives. The additional travel time of 10 to 15 minutes, sometimes several times a day, for some families and delivery services now results in increased fuel consumption, emissions, pollution, and wear and tear on vehicles, and our ever deteriorating bitumen, not conducive to climate change. The roundabouts pose further risks due to poor indication by drivers, leading to dangerous situations, especially at Moreton Road, which has transformed from a T-junction into a roundabout with problematic U-turns. Reports from residents include near misses involving trucks and other vehicles. Local businesses, especially Songbird Daycare Centre, are patronised by the locals. For especially truck drivers, Lockington Matahui Road roundabouts poses dangerous situations with other traffic passing them, changing lanes and failing to give way to vehicles coming from the side roads. Packhouse traffic will double their vehicle movements due to no right turns. During harvesting and spraying seasons, multiple tractors will be using these roundabouts. As ratepayers, we are keen to share with you, our council, these serious concerns, and we hope to urge NZTA to reconsider the current change. I would also like to take the opportunity to express our sincere gratitude to Mayor James Denyer for attending our town hall meeting on July the 23rd. Your support, alongside Regional Councillor Ken Shirley, and the 349 attendees, was instrumental in passing the resolution unanimously to urge NZTA to make provisions for right-hand turns at all lateral road intersections along State Highway 2 between Katikati and Amokaroa. Your commitment to this issue is greatly appreciated. As a board member on the Regional Land Transport Committee, we trust you will carry this matter forward, taking into account the needs of the community through genuine engagement with all those affected. We hope that all councillors have taken the time to view the video we sent, which addresses many of the safety issues. Thank you.
Thank you, June, and thank you for those kind words. So I'll open up for further questions now. So, Councillor Joyce.
So can you tell me, even though I drive along there all the time, when was the right turn into Right Road put in? Do you know roughly?
We think coming up 3 years in December.
So only 3 years. So have we been able to get any data out of NZTA about how that's affected safety and whether that's made the difference that it was designed to make?
Have we had that conversation?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just in terms of, they put this in to improve safety, and have they really given it a good go and actually got some data to support whether that worked or not, whether they needed to do anything else?
As far as I know, the data that was put out was old data, nothing since those right turns were put in.
Thank you, Councillor Joyce. Councillor Daly.
Joan, thanks for coming in. I just want to clarify, both you and Rochelle have talked about the roundabouts and the danger of the roundabout. Are you talking about just the pure tightness of the turning circle is causing issues?
The tightness of the turns is a big issue for truck drivers. You can see that on the video. People coming from Tauranga heading north are used to going straight through, and the Morton Road roundabout is just about straight through. There's not much of a curve to go around that roundabout. So they are just can fly. Whereas us doing a U-turn, some people have had to stop on the roundabout and give way to those northbound vehicles. Someone nearly got taken out by an 18-wheeler. They're just not used to people doing a U-turn, going back where they came from.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions for June? No? Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillor.
I think, is Paul on ready now? Yes. Okay. So Paul Dowick, live at Mills Reef Winery, if he's on Zoom.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Ah, excellent. Good. Yeah, so there's obviously quite a few issues involved with this wire barrier. I'd like to start with a few issues, safety issues that it's created already. There's a sign about 20 metres from our gate indicating 0.6 kilometres up to the roundabout to turn around. That is actually obstructing the truck drivers' views to leave our property. So they are having to put their nose of their trucks out onto the road to see oncoming cars. The speed of the traffic at the moment is definitely increased from 80 k's probably to well over 100 for some of these vehicles now. So it's not giving them a lot of time to stop if the truck has to move. We have a lot of different trucks and B trains from Porters, Main Freight, Aotearoa Transport, Dines, Timona, all carrying heavy loads. So it's going to be quite fatal if anyone, of course, ploughs into them. The other issue is that a lot of these B trains are struggling to get out of our gate without having to cross the double yellow line on the bridge. So they're actually driving into incoming traffic. So this in itself is creating a lot of issues for the truckies, and they are a bit dubious of even coming to us anymore, which of course is going to affect our business. The other issue is just on the weekend, our foot traffic coming through into our cellar door would have been well over 50% down on our normal weekend. So this is already has had a great effect on our business, whereby we have to reevaluate what we do with the cellar door, whether it's worth having it open, which is of course affect our business and of course employment. I'm not really sure what else I can say apart from the inconvenience that it is causing.
Thank you, Paul. I think I'm going to start with, having watched the video that was sent to us yesterday, that sign does seem to be in a really bad place, and I do have concerns about that. So again, I think I'll perhaps ask staff to liaise with NZTA and just have a look at that sign and see if it can be moved, because it really is blocking your visitors' sightlines as they exit. So I'm pretty sure NZTA wouldn't want that either. So if I can ask staff to do that, that would be great. But anyway, I'll open up for any questions that people have. Councillor Murray-Bench.
Paul just summed it up. It's obviously an absolute disgrace, this road and all these barriers that have been put in. I go regularly to Auckland and back again, and that's the nicest route because it's so interesting. But those barriers seem to me to be an experiment. And
Margaret, this isn't sounding like a question. You've got a question for Paul?
I just want to say, how disgraceful is this for all the people that are here today?
Councillor Murray-Bench. Thank you, Councillor Murray-Bench. I appreciate your statement. Okay, is there any other questions for Paul? Councillor Sol.
Yes, basically, I guess thanks to all of them, all those that have come today and spoken. I just guess my question is, have you got some really good alternatives that can support the case to get rid of these things? I travel that road regularly as well. I had a visitor last night, actually, had not travelled it till 2 days ago, and the comments were just terrible. We can't do anything about NZTA's plans on state highways. We can support you or not. That's another issue. But have we got some really good alternatives? Is it to go back to where it was? Are there other options?
Councillor Sol, I think this is not really a question for Paul. That was what I was trying to ask a question. Asking if you had a question for Paul. We can have a little bit more debate on the main issue during my report if you wish. But is there any question for Paul exactly? Right. Councillor Joyce.
So, Paul, obviously the people along your stretch are living this now. Yeah, the other parts of the road, thankfully, haven't had their barriers put in yet. So you've got real world effects. You've talked about the cellar door business being down 50%. Has that been fed through to NZTA? Because obviously, you know, one of the things from the Mayor's letter is that we're worried about the economic effects. So, and this government says it's worried about the economic effects as well. So has that, you know, now you've got some real world data of actually having the barrier outside your gate. Has that been fed through to NZTA, please?
No, I haven't passed any of that information on to NZTA as of yet.
Yeah, I would think that one weekend stage is probably not a conclusive survey, but it's definitely worth, you hit the right buttons, and I think this government is about economic productivity and so on. So absolutely, but I think one weekend survey is probably not.
Well, it's not one weekend, it's been there a bit longer than that, isn't it?
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's the only data we have, that's the problem.
Yeah, I would encourage that in due course, absolutely. It's a good point that Paul makes, so thank you. Right, okay, I think we've exhausted the questions on Paul, so thank you, Paul, for that, and I appreciate your involvement in that video as well, where you could see the truck coming out and the sight lines as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So I'll move a recommendation then in accordance with standing orders that the order of business be changed and that the item 11.4 Mayor's report to Council will be dealt with as the next item of business. Who would like to second that? Councillor Granger. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. So we move to item 11.4, page 170. So the report's pretty self-explanatory, but I'm open to take questions. Councillor Joyce.
Just with regards to your letter, are you tabling that? Do we need a resolution table? Or I don't know, I've never had something.
It went last Friday, so that's already gone. Yeah.
I know, but I mean, do we need to get it into the record? Do we need to have a motion to
It's,
receive.
it's already in the record, but if you'd like to move to endorse it or something, I'm happy
Well,
to.
yeah, just have it in the minutes, really. So it's actually included in the minutes of the meeting.
Right, okay, if we endorse it, then there'll be a resolution that we've
I
endorsed it. That's-
happily move that we endorse the letter, yeah.
Okay. Seconded, Councillor Scrimger. All those in favour, please say aye. Oh, speak to it. Councillor Mowbray, of course.
Sir, I think this letter is really important, and I don't think the residents realise just how fundamental it is for us to be able to use the leader to actually lobby the government. And the government has changed, and it's got a new chairman to it, and he's got the challenge now of making sure that NZTA are answerable to him, and they cannot stand by and watch the people suffer like you are doing out there in the community. And so when the letter is actually received and we get a reply, I would assume, sir, that you will make sure that it's widely circulated, because we can't put up with this nonsense of an NZTA who tells us that it's quite easy to knock those barriers down, take them down if they want to review things. But for us, we represent the people, and the people are suffering, and we have to have answers from that board as soon as possible to make sure that people understand where they're going in the future. How long before any action is taken, what they intend to do, and how they will involve the local people at the same time as us. So I hope, sir, that you can report back as quickly as with all those details.
Thank you, Councillor Mowbray. I'm assuming or hope it's gone into the board papers for the upcoming board meeting, and they'll deliberate on that. And that response will be coming from there, I imagine. Thank you. Anyone speaking to the motion? Councillor Joyce.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of key points. The letter covers it. Driving that road regularly, I can tell you the Moreton Road roundabout, thinking of the wine, the Moreton Road roundabout is a problem. And I don't think proper modelling's been done. I mean, there's congestion there. There's cars backed up. There are cars sweeping through there because they don't get used to it. Now, you could say, well, over time they might get used to it, but actually, it's a main highway, so different people are driving it at different times. I've seen near misses myself. One of the risks that NZTA put in their risk register when they started this project was that people would do silly things. There's clear evidence that people are doing silly things. The frustration levels are extremely high. It is affecting people's livelihoods. It's affecting people's costs in a cost of living crisis. There's not much we can do at this council table, and that frustrates me, but that's the way it is. It's a highways matter. NZTA, guards its prerogative very closely. But I think the fact that we've outlined inclusive access, economic prosperity, resilience, security, health and safety, and environmental sustainability in that letter is important. These are the issues, the core issues that are there. I would also point out, as I have done on Facebook already, that this is getting attention from all over the country, from rural communities all over the country. And what's really sad is that these people are not asking, mostly, some of them are, but mostly people aren't asking for all these barriers to be taken out. 90% of the barriers can stay. It's the bits that are the problems are the bits on the corners. And if you go back to when Work Road started, they didn't even want a right turn out of Work Road. They said, no, we'll go around the roundabout for that because it's quite close. We want a right turn in. So people have been quite reasonable about their requests. Yet this has now gone up and down the country, with different rural groups quoting it. This is going to make it much harder for NZTA to put in medium barriers where they are needed, because rural communities have lost trust and don't want a bar of this. So, if you look at the broader picture of the whole country, by stirring up this fight, NZTA has actually made it harder to keep people safe in other areas. I don't know anybody arguing against what's happened in Athenry Gorge. We've had some nasty crashes in there. The medium barriers there, great idea. But of course there are some breaks in them, and I know they have their own rationale for that. But, people are not necessarily opposed to medium barriers. What they're opposed to is not getting home. And I think, the compromises that have been talked about, that you yourself, James, has talked about in the media in the past, they're so sensible. And I hope the board will listen, particularly now they've got some new board members recently appointed.
Thank you, Councillor Joyce. Next up, I have Councillor Coxhead.
I fully support this community and I fully support the content of this letter. I travel on this road often myself as well, and frustrated. I mean, I don't do it every day like so many of you are doing, but my frustrations around the lack of passing lanes, the narrowness of the roads, I can't remember which particular roundabout it was, one of the smaller ones, comes down to a very narrow part. The inefficiency of it all and the lack of attention to detail from NZTA in terms of what happens in an accident. I mean, basically you're blocking off parts of the road, the cost to the community in terms of actual economic costs and the cost to people and businesses. It's appalling, and I support everything Rodney and Margaret have said as well. I mean, this is definitely something that's drawing a lot of attention around New Zealand. And Rodney's right. I mean, this is actually not doing NZTA any favours in areas where they might actually need this. So, yes, you have my full support.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Coxhead. Councillor Sol.
Thank you, sir. I too totally support those that spoke before and the people that have presented today. To me, we've got to give as best support as we can, and you have been giving that, sir. So that's the first bit there. These people live there. It's not like they visit. They live in off those roads. They're not even passing through like me. Okay? That's where the voice is and is telling us it isn't good. The other bit, things like the economics, how it's affected seller sales, how it affects, for sure, sales for people in Katikati, etc. Because if you can't make a choice of where you go, some of these roads, people will just, if they happen to turn towards Tauranga, they probably just continue. All those little things that happen. But one of the worst things to me also, on top of it all, is it sort of divided the community. And I don't mean divided you between each other as to yes or no. You're divided. And you're somebody else, somewhere else. Sir, I hope that we give this the utmost support all the way we can. Unfortunately, it isn't us that makes the final decisions.
Thank you. Councillor Wickers.
I've got not much to add to that, but just want to acknowledge the grassroots people who get involved in issues that affect them. That was my pathway to here, was an eroding issue over our way, involved a 18-kilometre detour. Fortunately, it was only for a short period of time. But in that process, what I did learn was when they do their cost-benefit analyses, they don't factor in to the significant cost that is imposed without an option onto a small number of people who bear that cost and no recognition or concern over it. So appreciate what you've done.
Yeah, and I think that was exemplified by the in the video that the tractor driver has the farm has to go right around the world to get to just across the road, which was a really unfortunate situation for him. So that was eye-opening. Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour.
Yes, well, just two things quickly I wanted to say was one, acknowledge hearing the concerns of the people, and as they've been mounting over the months, as it's gone on for some time now to reach this point where you're here today to talk to us. But I particularly wanted to acknowledge the letter that has gone to NZTA and yourself and Mr. Thurston, Mayor, for the thought that you put into that letter in outlining the issues that affect these people that are here today. And so I thought that clearly showed it was thoughtfully written and well done. Happy to support it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour. So I think I'll just say a few words before I put that motion. This has been a tricky one to navigate, as others have said around the table. We're not the decision makers on this. We can advocate, and we have advocated. I do think, and I have said this quite clearly to David Spears and other senior officials, that, in my opinion, gaps in the barriers for at least some roads would be good. That desire was then extended at the public meeting subsequently, saying that all roads, maybe that's possible, maybe it's not. I would like any options that are safe. There may be some where they're not safe, and so we do want safe options, but there are definitely opportunities for, I believe, for some of those roads to have right-hand turns. And it was where it's safe. So that's the main thing for me. It's got to be safe. Okay. I'm not a traffic engineer, and none of us around this table are. So that is important for me. So right. Well, as I'm trying to say, I support what you're trying to do: increase access and have right-hand turns for side roads. Right. Thank you. Right. So of that, I shall put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. We have another recommendation to receive my report, and I assume there's no other questions on that, but I'm happy to take questions if there are. No? Okay, in which case I'll move that my report be received. Seconder, Councillor Henry. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. So we'll just move on to the rest of the meeting now, which is various. Sorry, Councillor.
I was late. Just wanted to know when we were going to be meeting with Mahi Drysdale and his
No,
council.
that's just for me.
No, not when are we going to be meeting with them?
It's still being organised. I haven't got a date.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Right, so we're now moving on to the minutes for receipt. Members of the public, you are welcome to stay, but it doesn't concern medium bearers particularly, so I wouldn't want to keep you longer than you need to. Thank you, Rex. So, minutes of the Kadikadi Community Board meeting held on 29th of May be received. Councillor Henry. Councillor Murray Benge. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Minutes of the Mokura Community Board meeting held 4th of June. Councillor Thwaites. Councillor Granger. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Minutes of Tapuki Community Board meeting held 6th of June. Councillor Wickers and Councillor Daly. You've got a question there, Councillor Wickers?
It's probably just a question around process. So within those meetings, we notified the Secretary that there was an amendment to happen. The amendment's not in here, but it's included in the following, it's included as in the recommendation of the following minutes. Is that the normal process?
Yes, so it'll just be a timing thing, so
Yeah.
they'll be confirmed at the Community Board meeting, so as long as they're correct record in that agenda.
So if someone's looking at the minutes down the track and reads the minutes that we pass here for that, they won't.
Make a note of it.
Yeah, okay.
For the minutes purpose.
Okay.
Okay, so Councillor Wickers, Councillor Daly, all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Minutes of the Makatu Community Board, 11th of June. Councillor Ray, would you like to move that? Yeah, and Deputy Mayor Scrimger. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Minutes of the Makatu Community Board on 27 June. Deputy Mayor Scrimger, Councillor Ray. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Minutes of Waihi Beach Community Board meeting, 17th of June. Councillor Henry, Councillor Soul. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Minutes of the Mokura Community Board meeting on 30th of July. Councillor Thwaites, Councillor Granger. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. So now we'll move on to Council and Committee minutes for confirmation, page 61. So Strategy and Policy Committee meeting on the 14th of December. Just going back a bit. I'll move that. Councillor Wickers, all those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Annual Plan, Long-Term Plan Committee meeting of the 9th of May. Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour, Councillor Coxhead. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Minutes of Council, 23rd of May. I'll move those. Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour, all those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Minutes of the Projects and Monitoring Committee meeting held on the 4th of June. Councillor Thwaites, Councillor Sowell, all those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Minutes of Audit, Risk and Finance on the 4th of June. Councillor Granger. Councillor Henry, all those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Minutes of Council, 13th of June. I'll move that. Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour, all in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Minutes of the Community Committee on the 18th of June. Councillor Murray Benge, Councillor Coxhead, all those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. 3 more to go. Right. Minutes of Strategy and Policy, 20 June. Councillor Thwaites, I'll second that. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Minutes of District Plan Committee, 27 June. Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour. Councillor Granger, all those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Minutes of Strategy and Policy, 25 July. I'll move that. And Councillor Granger, second. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Whew. So, we move on to item 11.3 on page 156, which is the Tawhitinui Papakainga reduction to financial contributions. So, Chris and Rachel, I believe. Or Corey.
Tēnā tātou. This report, as the Mayor's just mentioned, is for the reduction of financial contributions for the Tawhitinui Papakainga. So we brought this to the Strategy and Policy Workshop on the 20th of June and had quite a robust discussion at that meeting. The direction from that meeting was to bring a report to the next council meeting with a bit more information. So we've included that in the report. And we're happy to take the report as read, and if there's any questions, we can speak to those.
Any questions for Corey? Councillor Murray Benge.
So with the FinCos, they go towards sewerage and water and transport and recreation, and the Morai is going to provide their own sewage system, their own water system, and so what is the FinCo for?
So the financial contributions for Tawhitinui specifically relate to roading and transportation. They are going to be on reticulated water supply, like drinking water supply. And then there's also a general ecological and rec and leisure financial contribution. But yeah, as you've said, the Papakainga will provide its own stormwater and wastewater because there's no option to connect to reticulated supply up there.
Question, Mr. Mayor. So if we approve all this, will it be able to go ahead?
So I think it's outlined in the report that there's a funding shortfall for the Papakainga generally. What they are doing is working towards finding any savings that they can across the development, and so that includes reducing the footprint as well as looking for additional funding sources. So the hope is that whatever money they can save on the financial contributions will be directly invested into building the homes on the Papakainga.
Okay, any further questions for Corey? Councillor Granger.
So I note that the wording of Resolution 3 is slightly different from the policy. Is that because the intention is that there will be more than 10 dwellings that this is a approval for?
Yes, so the resource consents for 22 whare, I think, and they're looking at building 20. So it exceeds that 10 that's out there. It's essentially 2 applications of the policy.
I'm happy to move the resolution, sir.
So you're happy to move?
Yes.
Okay, so I've got a mover for recommendations 1, 2 and 3. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Murray Binge, any debate on this one?
Yes.
Councillor Murray Binge.
I'd like to speak to it. We need houses for our people, and if we can do anything, which we are, to actually make this a reality, it would be so worthwhile. You have put a lot of effort into it, and it's Papakainga housing is something we've learned to respect and to encourage, and but we don't get much of it. And so here we've got one that's going well, and if we can do this, can help to achieve it, I think it's really worthwhile. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm conscious I've forgot to give the opportunity to Councillor Wickers to ask a question, so if you want to ask a question, you're free to do so.
Yes, so this, just confirming that this is an inconsistent application of the policy, is that correct?
Inconsistent in the sense that the policy at the moment says one household equivalent payable per up to 10 dwellings per application, and so this would essentially be applying the policy twice, so it's inconsistent in that sense.
So would we be looking to amend the policy at some point? I am nervous about inconsistency with policy, that what happens down the track when this is seen as a precedent.
Well, Section 80 of the Local Government Act means if we have an inconsistent policy, we have to explain whether we're going to change it or not. But I'm sure Rachel can go into that in more detail if necessary.
Through you, Your Worship, yes, it is a very good question. I would imagine that through both the Papakainga plan change and the piece of work which we talk about often, which is the examination of the merit of working toward a financial contributions regime away from development contributions regime away from financial contributions. That will provide us with essentially the opportunity for a first principles look at our policy settings around development contributions, if you so decide to go there. So yes, ultimately, we would be looking to re-examine all of our policy settings in relation to development contributions.
I'll now speak to the thing.
Yeah,
I also note that the financial contributions, this side of things, is it is a zero-sum game. That if it's given on one hand, it has to be taken from another. So that also does concern me, that the cost of this will fall somewhere, somehow. It will be paid for, would be my understanding. So I'm happy to support it because it does achieve a big picture, but just noting that that the cost will come somewhere.
John, did you want to?
Yeah, just quickly, and it's not to argue that point, but when we do the financial contributions, which obviously are divided by the number of residual lots that we expect to be developed over a period of time, Papakainga are not considered in that calculation. So it doesn't affect the balances as such, or what we need to collect going forward.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, there's going to be more people driving on the roads. There's going to be, all of those things happen, and they do need to be paid for somehow. I'm just noting it's out there, but noting that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wickers. Councillor Coxhead. Oh, you didn't? Okay, awesome. Councillor Sol.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, basically, yes, I support this so strongly. It's housing, it's important. It's the use of Maori land, people being able to use that, so that's great. But I actually do go back to, it's interesting, the settings, as Rachel has referred to on the policy. I do look at this, and there's one area I feel is perhaps potentially a sad issue that could develop, and that is the one that I brought up in the workshop, not necessarily going to affect, particularly in this Papakainga situation, but this policy transcends the whole district, the whole, and everybody, and that is the one of capital gain, and that the ratepayer picks up that tab when potentially some of the properties could be, when they're for sale as opposed to for rental, those properties could be purchased and put on the market in some desirable areas maybe, and a major gain be made by private people, and we've got our ratepayers picking up the tab. And I just feel that's one of the areas maybe we need to look a little harder at if we do review some of this policy. But thank you, it's a good thing to happen.
I think, given the nature of Māori land, I think that might be difficult, but I'll let Chris speak and to perhaps explain that point a little bit further.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I was feeling a bit left out at the table here, so it's glad to be able to contribute something. But I think it's an important point to note, Councillor Sol, but the nature of Māori land is that by virtue of Te Ture Whenua Māori Act and the purpose of that act, Māori land is protected as a taonga tuku iho, and fundamentally the Māori Land Court is opposed to the sale of Māori land unless under very, very limited circumstances, and they have jurisdiction to decide whether Māori land can be alienated or not. So there's no opportunity for people to be able to capitalise Māori land in a way that might happen when you give them the opportunity that's in front of us this morning. The question that probably needs to be looked at as we go through the Papakainga plan change is when we think about applying the idea of Papakainga to other parcels of land that might not be subject to those controls of the Māori Land Court, whether that might be an issue that pops up in the future, and we have to be clear about that when we go through that process. But for the purpose of this conversation this morning, that's not able to happen.
Please.
My comment wasn't in like this particular case. I accept that that's how it is. It concerns me that on general land it can become an issue, and that's covered by the same policy. And it's not the land necessarily, we're talking about the building. The building is owned by people, and so the building can carry on. And I bring that up because of Seaford Park. That's who developed a whole pile of houses on the basis of being affordable homes. And now, because the owner, they don't own the land, they can't sell the land, but they can sell the property, the building, now making quite major capital gains on it. So the purpose of what they built has now gone, if you know what I mean. They've become more expensive. And it's just something I feel we've got to try to see if we can find a way to balance it, to keep these homes relatively affordable going forward. That's all.
Okay. Some further debate in the future, I think. So, Councillor Granger. No, okay. Next, I have Councillor Joyce.
I think Margaret summed it up very well. This is something we can do for people who have a very clear need. Obviously, they do have significant costs because they're unable to connect to our wastewater or stormwater systems, and while they're not alone in that, I think Margaret's comments about the need being met and the need for housing, in particular Papakainga, sum it up. So, yes, we're having to give a bit of extra support, and I think the end result is well worth it.
Thank you. Councillor Henry.
I was away for the discussion about this, and you make a rule that you think's a good thing, and then there's an exception that comes up that's outside that rule, which is still a good thing. And I sympathise, I had the same sympathy with, or same thoughts as Andy does. And I'm just seeing in here, and I'm just wondering whether for staff that we've talked about Papakainga houses being similar to minor dwellings within a rest home development, which is not attracting the same FinCos. So is that something that we're going to be looking at?
Councillor Henry, I don't think that's speaking to this particular motion. It's a good point.
Yeah,
but
I know.
I think that's for future discussion.
Did any of that conversation come out during that
about
time? The comparison there?
Yes. Rachel?
Again, through you, Your Worship, yes. And again, that is how council approaches levying development contributions for things like retirement villages, where there is a hospital component, how it levies financial contributions for minor dwellings, granny flats, if at all, are all things that need to be worked through the policy process of potentially a new development contributions policy.
Councillor Murray Benj.
Question, Sir. Can we not pass this with knowing that it's without precedent, so that every Papakainga development may be quite different, and to say to lock us into the policy and we shouldn't really deviate from the policy? Well, at times we have to, and so isn't it? Could I ask Rachel, what's the wording? Without precedent. Is that right?
I think Councillor Murray Benj, that this is, the whole point of this resolution is because it is a unique situation. If it wasn't needing, if it wasn't a special situation like this, it would just be done by staff under delegated authority, and there'd be no question. So
Perfect.
by definition, it's a special situation. Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour.
Wanted to make the comment that while this is I forget the word, deviation, it's actually a reflection of the policy that 1 for 10, as Corey explained before, and I think we shouldn't lose sight of that fact.
Yes, and in a way, if they'd almost gamed the system and done 1 for 10, and then a month later done another 1 for 10, that would just be a lot more inefficient for everyone, but would have achieved the same financial results. So yeah, that's one way of thinking about it. I think we've probably gone around the houses a bit now on this one. So we've got the 3 recommendations moved by Councillor Granger. Did you want to write a reply, Councillor Granger? Please do.
Thank you, sir. It's regrettable that they've still got financial issues to deal with, and I trust that they are resolved and they can move on with this. I think we've, as a council, we've done all that we can to assist this. We've vested the land on those paper roadways back to them to make it easier for them, and we've done this, and I'm looking forward to the opening. Thank you.
Right, and with that, we'd better put the recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. So moving on to page 173, item 11.5, and that's the infrastructure projects for pre-long-term plan approval. Okay, Cedric, is there anything you want to particularly say on this? I think it's reasonably self-explanatory, but...
No, thank you. Through Mr. Chair, so this is basically, with the delay of the LTP, we've got 3 projects that are ready to go. Obviously, the 3 projects are pretty straightforward. It's a replacement of number 4 bridge, the UV for the treatment plants, so that's to treat the protozoa and the bacteria, and the katikati alternative discharge, so that's looking at alternatives to potentially a pipe underneath or discharge to land or some alternative arrangement. So basically, these are new projects that we're seeking approval, I guess, within the current LTP, because the proposed LTP hasn't been adopted yet. So,
I did have one question, Cedric, and that, can you explain exactly what the Katikati Wastewater Treatment Plant alternative discharge funding of 300,000 is for? I mean, would that it would get us a new outfall pipe, but that would be at least 2 orders of magnitude too light, I think. But
yes.
Can you explain what the 300,000 is for exactly?
So basically, that is pretty much engagement with Becca in the working groups to look at alternatives. Basically, looking at we've got the pipe, discharge to land, a combination of both. So basically, it's actually looking at what are our options around that sort of $65 million infrastructure pipeline that we've got in the LTP at the moment. So yeah, so pretty much that's what the funding is for, looking at if there is any alternative options rather than just going with the pipe under Matakana Island.
Right, thank you. Councillor Joyce.
Thank you for covering that. On the other one for the UV treatment, $2 million, does that come from government standards, higher government standards, or how's that come about?
Yep, that's been an update. So that's for allowing for us to treat the protozoa now that comes through the water. So basically, the ministry updated the standards, and this is us responding to that and ordering those UVs.
It would be handy to have at some stage a list of all the additional costs we have from government higher standards, because I think people aren't quite yet aware of just how much that's having an influence on our spending. These things are all good ideas, but they do cost money.
See all the unfunded mandates, but there we are. Right, Councillor Coxhead.
Just, so the 6.6 million, that's for the bridge and everything, all the work involved in the whole project, is that correct?
Yes, correct. So that'll be the bridge replacement, the approaches, all the signs, the railings, the markings, the removal, the barriers, the piers.
Seems very cheap.
Okay, right. So do we have a mover and seconder for those two recommendations, please? Deputy Mayor Scrimger, Councillor Murray Benge. Sure.
I know Callum said the timeline the other day. My understanding is I think the bridge was going to be installed was either March or May, and then there would be some minor work around the approaches, but all finished and completed, opened in this coming financial year, on this current financial year.
Okay. It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Scrimger, seconded by Deputy Mayor, Councillor Murray Benge. Speaker from Councillor Wickers.
So the timeline we've been told is that it be open at the end of February, traffic on February, finished early March. I just want to note in the public record that the rough order cost for this was 2.75 million, and the analysis of options had that as the one of the significant factors in the location of the bridge. There are other options that potentially would give a better outcome, but they were discounted because of cost. And so now we've landed with a price tag of 6.6 million, whereas only a couple of months ago, we were told that there was not a significant difference in price. So I just want to note that, and that the explanation was that it was whoever was doing the pricing, the contractor was, the performance wasn't that great. So I'm just assuming that whoever did that no longer does any work for us. And
Councillor Wickers, I think we should be careful how we phrase that.
Yeah. I'm just saying that have we resolved the problem that causes us to underprice projects? I'm just making sure we do that. Otherwise we finish up in this situation.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So, yep, definitely acknowledge there was a difference in price from the concept through to the developed design. Yes, and definitely the contractor, the designer of interest, which was a previous roading contractor, is no longer with us. That has been addressed, but I think for this particular project, because of its significance, will be reported through the P&M, and I think part of that first report that we come back to, we need to close that out in terms of putting it back through our models. In terms of our engineers' estimates, like we've done with the Fincos, we're now looking at, you're getting your baseline engineer's estimate, but we're also looking at real-time contracts that have just been awarded, so we're looking at real-time rates. So we've adopted that same process for the other projects, not just the Fincos, so we're getting that level of accuracy now where we're actually using real-time rates and like-for-like places, and also looking at key materials, i.e. such as concrete pipes. They were around 125% in terms of cost escalation. Now they're back down to about 30. So we're tracking now, I guess, a better understanding of how we estimate projects.
Cedric, would it be fair to say that although this price moves up to where some of the other options were sitting, those other options would undoubtedly be higher themselves?
Yeah, correct. Absolutely.
Okay. So what I was trying to make, we're not now going with the most expensive option. That's the key point. Okay, look, so I think Deputy Mayor Scrimger, why don't you...
I wanted to say that one of the constant criticisms we hear of council is slow to responding to issues, and these things, it's well outlined in the paper there. They've come forward as a result of changes, for instance, in regulations and storms that take out bridges and all those things, and it's important that we keep these moving and don't sit on our hands waiting for the LTP to be completed.
Thank you. So with that, I think we'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. So item 11.6, pages 177 to 178, appointments to vacant positions. And after the passing of Councillor Crawford, there were some positions that needed filling. I note that Councillor Ray was sworn in this morning, so great to see you here and on board. And I'm also recommending that she be appointed as a rep on EnviroHub. And also Councillor Crawford sat as Deputy Chair of Strategy and Policy, and I was recommended that Councillor Granger take that position. Are there any questions for me or staff on those? No? Okay, so I'm happy to move that. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Sol. I assume there's no debate. Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. So now we move to item 11.7 on page 179, and that is the council and committee workshops item. Did you want to introduce that, Rachel?
For clarification, Your Worship, this is the workshops one, yes.
Yeah, this is the workshop and following on from the Ombudsman report.
Yes. So you'll recall that Council discussed the approach that it might like to take to the Ombudsman's report, generically known as Open for Business, and also the sector advice that had been given to staff in response to that report. This report in front of you provides the suite of interventions that you decided that you would, or that you gave direction you would like to take in relation to that report, which is essentially that all of our workshops will be publicly notified, including the topics for discussion, but they will remain confidential at this stage. The notes from any workshops will be attached to a subsequent decision report. So, for example, if you were workshopping a policy approach, when you come to adopt the policy in its final form, all of the workshop notes precedent to that decision making will be attached in a public agenda. And you reserve the right to make decisions on a case-by-case basis as to whether or not options consideration workshops can be made open to the public. Happy to answer any questions.
Councillor Granger.
Thank you. Rachel, I presume that this can be done without any increase in headcount, that in terms of workload, it's not going to impose extra burdens or staff costs?
Correct.
Councillor Joyce.
Just on 3A, bearing in mind that the website currently lists everything in chronological order, how will we do that if we're not going to cover the date, time of the workshops and that, or are we planning to include the date and time of the workshops as part of 3A? Because I mean, at the moment everything's done in chronological order, so if we don't have the date and time on there for a workshop, how will it actually practically be done?
The design of the website page hasn't been confirmed yet, but what other councils do is that they go by month. So in February, we'll be discussing these items at workshop in March. So we thought about that approach. That seems to work quite tidy, and then people don't have to scroll through screeds of pages, and that's at a really high level. So that's one approach that we're looking at.
Another question, just the practicalities around 3C on a case-by-case basis. I mean, we presume we're not going to come in here and then decide on the spot that we're going to open something up. So have we thought about the practicalities of how we go about that? If we're going to decide, very good idea, but how's it going to work?
I mean, as at a staff level, we have program for discussing particular matters, particularly policies or annual plan, long-term plan, where there are dedicated optioneering workshops. We know well in advance when they're scheduled, so we will be seeking a decision in advance from council whether or not it wished to notify the public that this would be open.
I think if it has to go to council, then that's, you know, we only meet every now and again. It just makes it a lot easier if just the chairperson wants to open it up. They should be able to.
So,
yeah,
I'm
I'm in the weeds, but it is actually a key matter, because if it's going to be a council decision,
I doubt, no, it wouldn't be a formal council decision. It would just be a, you know, informal, do we want this, guys, you know? Councillor Murray-Bench.
Would you just clarify that again, please? Because I see A and C being quite difficult to actually implement. It's one thing to put the notes on our public agenda, but at the same time, if we're going to advertise on the website that we're having workshops, and then on a case-by-case basis, council will consider whether optioneering workshops shall be in the public. Once that goes out for the public, and this is a public document, people will be really keen to have our workshops really opened. I think that's inviting openness for our workshops. I'm not opposed to it, sir, but I'm just saying that's what the community is going to say.
So, Councillor Murray-Bench, that was exactly the nature of the Ombudsman's report, was inviting council to consider greater transparency around its workshop approaches. At a staff level, we feel very comfortable with these recommendations, A, that they are doable, and of course we will have to work out some of the operational machinations for that, including how council might decide to open a particular workshop. So they are doable. They are being deployed by other councils now. And when we talk about optioneering workshops, really we're talking about where the big processes, the big planning processes that you go through. Long-term plan is one example, annual plan is another, and maybe big policy projects where you consider, where we typically have lots of feedback and there's several options that you need to explore. So those don't happen very often, but those are the ones where we think that there is the potential for a decision to be made on a case-by-case basis that they are open to the public.
And I think it would remain, Councillor Murray-Bench, that we could decide to have a particular workshop open for whatever reason anyway. We don't need to rely on this resolution. This sets the direction and overall thought on how we want to proceed. But if for whatever reason we want a workshop open, we can do that.
It's not that, sir. Tell me, who decides whether it will be open or not? Is it your choice? Is it the chairman of the committees? Is it staff choice? Who decides?
And again, those are the operational matters that we will work through in due course. But as Mayor James has said, we have always had a practice as an organisation that from time to time it makes sense to open a workshop to the public. And one example that I can recall is the local alcohol policy, where we thought, councils of the past, thought that it would be really useful to have sector expertise in the room with you, and by that I mean police, the hospitality sector. So we have done it on a case-by-case basis, and from memory, on those occasions it would have been the chair of the relevant committee who made the decision that there was merit in availing ourselves of the opportunity to have public participation or additional expertise around the table.
We did that with Tauranga City Council, and it was so good. But tell me, who made that decision that we would combine and we would have the others involved as well? It was a big thing. And by the way, Tauranga City then turned around and, I was going to say, botched it.
Okay, I think I'm getting a bit off topic here, but
they're not there now.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Councillor Henry.
I think the comment in point 10 that our workshops do not deal with the transaction and decision making of council So that would be the reason we're fleshing things out in our workshop. But then it comes to taking the reason why people, I think, are asking for it, because they are not taking long on the journey with it. When they come to council meeting, we've got a recommendation, but it doesn't have all the information behind it. So I really appreciate, and our little lady over there has instituted a lot of work, put a lot of work into putting our workshop information in along with our official meeting, which actually goes a long way to addressing that they can see some of the decision making that we have gone through to then make the decision further on down in that agenda. And maybe there's an opportunity for more, but I think this is a huge step that has really been supported through the staff, and I really appreciate that. And hopefully our public will start to see a little bit of us moving, moving towards to take them along on the journey of that decision making.
Thank you, Councillor Henry. I'm sure Greer is appreciative of your kind words. Right. I think we've probably asked the questions we need to. So there's recommendations 1, 2 and 3. Do I have a mover and seconder for those recommendations, please? Councillor Henry, Councillor Murray-Benge. Is there any further debate on this? Councillor Sol.
So I support basically this as it's in front of us. It'll be interesting to see how the situation goes when we advertise, of course. I presume it will increase our flow of phone calls and emails to us as individuals or as a council group. But that's still good. It gives us the feed that we need. The only area I'm disappointed again, of course, is that community board chairmen are not included, perhaps, to be brought into these things. But I do support it, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Joyce.
I'd just like to move an amendment to bring us in line with a number of other councils on 3A, that the date, time, venue and topics to be discussed so date, time and venue is added to that. Do I pause to see if anyone's going to second it before I go on?
Okay, is there a seconder for an amendment from Councillor Joyce that in addition to the topics being discussed, that the date, time and topic would be advertised?
Yeah. Oh.
Councillor Thwaites.
It's a seconder, but maybe the original mover and seconder might accommodate it to short circuit.
I think this is more of an amendment type issue. But
okay. No, I'm happy to second it.
Yeah. So before I go any further, Rachel, did you?
Just a comment around the implications, because at the moment our workshops are fluid. So that means that if our, for example, if this council meeting finishes early, we bring the workshop forward. So sometimes it's entirely up to you, but you would need to appreciate that if you are advertising the date and time, it creates an expectation that, more of an expectation that people can attend, and you would need to stick to that time. So you couldn't bring your workshop forward. You would potentially be sitting around waiting for your workshop to start.
Councillor Thwaites, are you willing to second this, or are you?
Yeah, I am seconding it, and then I'll speak to it then if you want. Especially in relation to what Rachel just said. Look, these are available online and they're going to be accessible, so I don't think that's a big problem. People can go back and get up to speed with it, so I wouldn't discount it for that reason.
Okay, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I mean, with full respect, we do move times around in meetings already. We did it today, right? We moved topics around. We had things we had the public forum at 10:30 rather than 9:30. We do that regularly. I think as long as we had a disclaimer on the website saying, look, these things are subject to change. I mean, obviously the ones that are statutorily set, which are the formal committee meetings and council meetings, we can't do that so easily, but the workshop times are subject to change. The reason I'm interested in this is because a lot of other councils are doing it. In fact, in a quiet moment at some stage, I Googled a couple of councils. Hastings District Council has the date and times on there. I don't know of any problems from that. Why is it important? Well, it's slightly more openness. I think what we're doing here is really good. And I think it's a good change. And, and in fact, the notes for this discussion from the workshop are incredibly valuable to the public. So, there's an example right there. And I'd also take the point, picking up on Councillor Henry's point, that the governance team has certainly moved ahead with this. It hasn't waited for us, actually. We've had the workshop notes going into agendas, particularly in community boards, for quite a while now, which is great. I guess the point that I think that this adds of doing the date, time and venue is that one of the things the Ombudsman was very interested in was the ability of people to actually request information. It's very hard to request information if you don't know the details of what you're requesting. So, and as noted in the paper, the Local Government Act actually pushes us towards more and more openness. That's one of its themes. Now, we've put some lines around that, and I'm fully supportive of it. But if people are going to be able to ask us about something, they need to know, what actually they're asking for. And we hold a lot of information in this council. And sadly, the website is not, and I'm not blaming anybody who's here, but the search on that website is appalling, right? If you search for something, you'll get something from 10 years ago before you'll get something from last week. So that's another project that, and amongst everything else we're doing, we need to look at some stage. But giving people the increasing ability to ask for information is a lot of what the Ombudsman started out looking at, and I think that a little bit of extra information would be valuable in that. It's a bit more openness. And to be honest, it's also, I think, makes it easier for the staff because, the format's already there. We already file things chronologically. We don't need to invent a new and different system if we stick to that system. And that is pretty much what, at least some other councils are doing now.
Thank you, Councillor Joyce. Councillor Granger.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to make the point that Rachel made, and I will not be voting in support of this amendment. I don't see that adding the date adds anything to the information that's given to people about the topics. The topics are there. Adding the date doesn't help them in an employment request at all. So I can't see the point of making it extra work for staff and making it more difficult for them to reschedule meetings. Our meetings do float around rapidly all the time. The diaries, calendars, appointments move quite rapidly, quite often. So I can't see what would be achieved by making that change. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Granger. Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour.
Yeah, personally, I don't have too much of an issue with adding times, though I do note the point Councillor Sol made about increased scrutiny, and if they know that at 10 o'clock or whatever we're likely to be discussing a certain issue, those phone calls and requests for information subsequently are likely to increase. But that said, I don't see that as a big problem, and I think the question of time and moving, it could be covered off by simply saying indicative times, or as we often advertise for ourselves, at the conclusion of a certain meeting, there'll be a workshop on XYZ, and those sort of things could still be used, I believe.
Councillor Murray Benj.
Question for Rachel. Is that possible, Rachel? Or is it, it's really the legal issue once we advertise?
It is possible, and I'm in your hands on this matter.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll explain my views on this. I won't be voting for this amendment. The reason for that is that giving a time and date for a meeting that people can't attend is unhelpful. They'll see that and want to go to it, and then they can't. It also means that they might be asking for information that is confidential, because what we talk about in the workshop is confidential until it gets published. So, or the notes get published. So I think we have to be a little bit careful about raising expectations here. I'm fully in favour of having topics that are coming up in the next month or the next 2 weeks, or whatever makes sense. And then people can have, that understanding of what's coming up, and they can ask us as councillors about what about perhaps any concerns they have or anything like that. But I don't think this is kind of rod for our own backs here, and it'll be changing a lot. It'll be misleading. people say, what happened at discussion on Thursday? And say, no, it was moved to Monday, and all over the place. And I think it's not helpful, but that's my view. So if there's no more speakers, Councillor Wiggers.
Yeah, just hearing that. So we're saying this refers to option C, that the case-by-case optioneering. So there are cases.
So this is not about option C.
Correct, sorry, but I'm referring to that because we're saying that there are going to be workshops that we will decide that the public can attend. So then that will require a date and time?
Oh, yes, absolutely, yes.
So could the amendment be amended to say that the relevant ones will be date and time?
I think that would be self-explanatory. If it's going to be an open workshop, then we would advertise. Of course we would. Okay. Yeah, I don't think that needs an amendment for that. Councillor Sol.
Sir, yeah, when this sort of came to my attention and I thought about it, I actually was quite happy to roll with what the amendment is. But on reflection, I just feel perhaps there are just one or two areas that are just not quite conducive to maybe good decision making. So I will vote against it, sir.
Okay, thank you. Right, I think I'm going to put the motion. So I'll put the amendment. Sorry. So this is to amend recommendation 3A, so that topics to be discussed at council and committee workshops will be advertised. Sorry, topics, dates, and times will be discussed at council and committee workshops and advertised on council's website.
You missed a word. Venue.
Venue. Okay, sure. Venue.
Just, like other councils.
Yeah, they'll be here, but yeah, appreciate that. Okay, so with that, if you're in favour of the date, time, topic, and venue being advertised, please raise your hand. That's 3. Those against, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the amendment is lost. So in return to the original motion, which is moved by Councillor Henry and Councillor Murray Benge. Are there any other speakers on this one? I'm hoping not. Councillor Murray Benge.
If we were going to speak to the amendment, sir, it would have been just as sensible to have moved, we open all our workshops. That's how I interpreted it, and we're not at that stage. So I think the recommendations that are before us seem sound, and let's see how they work.
Great, thank you. Any more? No? Okay, so I'll put the motion, moved by Councillor Henry, seconded by Councillor Murray Benge. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Right. So now we're moving to the confidential section. So I call for a mover and seconder to move us into confidential. Councillor Sol, Councillor